gender identity on a survey about bullying. What's happening here is we're putting questions in young, impressionable minds about who they are. And I would venture to say that most of the students being surveyed are not being bullied. We're doing more harm than good by introducing the concept that a child can somehow magically change to choose to be any gender they want. That is not reality. There are males and females, and that's it. If there is a problem with bullying, then deal with the bullying. There's no difference if the victim is straight, gay, lesbian, trans, or anything else. Bullying is wrong, so deal with the bullying. Schools have no right to be introducing those concepts. These concepts can cause psychological and even physical harm to the kids. Parents are the ones that should be dealing with kids' well-being in these areas. These are impressional. When schools start to introduce topics on gender identity and kids begin to doubt things they otherwise never would, we never know where it's going to lead. I know that most teachers, counselors, and administrators do this with the best of intentions. They try to support the child's emotional needs. They even support them in transitioning, but they don't have their rights. When that child graduates, drops out of school, they're done with it. It's the family that ultimately has to bear the emotional and financial burden of getting them psychologically and physically healthy again. So for this reason, the schools need to move parenting to their parents. In the future, I would like to suggest that before any surveys are given to students, they're sent to parents to review and decide if they want their child to participate. They should be required to opt in, not out. Thank you for your time.
Starting with our next community conversations, we'll have that at OES next month from 6 to 7. Board time will be moved to 7 o'clock to accommodate that community conversation. We encourage you, this is a great opportunity with all types of questions. We have our entire cabinet there, so representation from all departments. So any questions, concerns, sit one-on-one and really dig deep into what we're doing, how we're doing it. Basically, any question you have about Oxford Community Schools, we can answer in real time. So you don't have to email, you don't have to call, you don't have to hunt people down. We're just there. We're all there. All right. So if you have time, if you have an opportunity, stop by OES. Next month, May 13th, from 6 to 7, and our board meeting will start at 7 o'clock. I'm actually really excited about this. I had promised a couple board meetings ago, in addition to the in-person, I recognize that people's schedules can be very challenging, and so we're offering a virtual community conversation. We're going to have 2 presentations. The first presentation is keeping our students safe, a parent's view. So we're having the presentation from a parent's lens on, okay, I dropped my student off at school. What are all the components that are in place to ensure their safety, their physical safety, their psychological safety? When they're online, what are we doing? What are the drills and protocols? So just a really down-to-earth, I'm a parent of a child, I want to know what are all the things that Oxford is doing to keep kids safe. So we'll have that first presentation. And then the second presentation we're going to have is the early warning indicator protocol. So this was a conversation that was brought up in a previous board meeting about, okay, a kid is showing signs that they're struggling. How do we know? How do we bring that data to the table provide that intervention. And we have a process for that called the Early Warning Indicator Protocol, and we're going to have a presentation on that. So it's a really interesting and pertinent presentation for all of our parents, all of our community members who might have concerns about students that are struggling and how do we provide that intervention. So I strongly encourage you to sign up. You just need to go to that link or upload that QR code. You can sign up and we'll send you the Zoom link to participate. After the presentations, so I don't know if you've ever attended a virtual Zoom meeting, so you can go into breakout rooms. So I'll have not only the presenters of these two presentations, I'll have my whole cabinet there to be able to answer any questions. You can go into a break room with John Fitzgerald and spend an hour and a half talking finances. I don't know. But it's available for any questions, even outside of those two presentations. So it's a great opportunity, again, to just engage in dialogue. The most important thing that we can do is engage in dialogue. That's how we come to a better understanding of how people see things differently, how we can take those into consideration and serve our students better. It comes down to serving our students. How do we make sure we're doing the right thing by our students? So, sign up. There will be a great evening. That's next Tuesday, the 29th. Speaking of surveys, we are doing a climate survey. This is the exact same survey that was done over the last couple of years. Principal Gwynn spoke to her data tonight. This will give us an opportunity to compare this year's data with last year's data on safety, on how kids are feeling. Do they have a trusted adult they can go to? Are parents feeling welcomed in our schools? So this will be an opportunity to compare that data. The parents and staff, you'll get the link, the survey link in your email. Students are going to receive a link in their advisory. So that's how we've implemented it in the past. So please look for that email. It's put on by K-12 Insight. Again, it's the same questions from last year, nothing is different, and it gives us that opportunity for comparison. That is really small type. Sorry about that. So as Jim spoke earlier, the strategic planning was energizing. I think that's probably the best word for it. We had all sorts of community members, parents, staff, engaging in dialogue. Again, it comes down to dialogue. What are our hopes for the future? And so we spent several hours together talking about the goals and deciding what we want specifically in those goals and what aligned actions will help us get there. So that's some of the feedback that we got. Lots of positive feedback. We also got some room for improvement. We always look to grow and do better. And some of the things that we're looking at in terms of improvement, more discussions around action items, and working on increasing the number of parents and community members attending. So obviously that's an important aspect of the work. And again, thank you to the board for being there, and thank you for attending the additional session for board members about the strategic plan, what to do with it. This is a repeat from the last presentation because it's pretty exciting. Our OSEC kids, our early college kids at the high school, put this on every year. They essentially go out and they help with gardening and yard work for families and people who may not be able to do that work. We are looking for volunteers, so they are still accepting volunteers. It's this upcoming weekend, so please, 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 if there's any time that you can donate, please sign up. Our kids, this is completely student-driven. They're very passionate about this. Historically, they've done numerous houses throughout the community. So if you can sign up, please do sign up. This is Daniel Axford. I absolutely, Jim talks about going on learning walks. We did a learning walk in Daniel Axford. This is about as far away from my experience as possible. I'm there with the littles was really interesting. But I love these pictures. Principal Boyd sent this to me. This is the first one. I believe they're kindergartners, and they're observing and learning about pill bugs in science. I remember being that age, like turning over the rocks and finding the pill bug. So I feel that. That's good stuff. And I was a science teacher, so I absolutely appreciate that. This middle picture are our first graders, and they're learning about worms and worms that don't have eyes. They play pin the tail on the donkey to explore how worms use other senses to see. And then finally, the third picture, first graders, they're learning about data in math. First graders wrote their own questions and went to another BPK class to collect data. So these are all what we would refer to as authentic learning opportunities, right? So sometimes we see pictures of kids learning and they have a book in front of them, nothing wrong with books, or a worksheet or whatever. Those are all components of learning. This is something where they're inquiring into the world, right? They're asking their own questions, they're making their own observations, they're collecting data, they're processing data, right? It's getting those parts of their brains really engaged, and they absolutely love it. So these are some of the things we get to see during our learning walks, and it's thrilling, absolutely thrilling. And of course, the next picture is really thrilling too, because who doesn't want to see their principal in a duck outfit? So this is at DA, the PE classes. They participated in American Heart Association's Kids Heart Challenge. They did this in February. They actually surpassed their goal and ended up raising $14,500 for this great cause. That meeting their goal meant that Principal Boyd wore a duck suit for the day, which I think that was pretty good. That's impressive. So pretty exciting stuff going on at Daniel Axford. So this is Leonard, some Leonard fun. So the picture on the left and the right, they had a 4th and 5th grade dance evening activity. The theme was masquerade. Clearly they are having a great time. Kids, I don't know if you know this, but kids love neon, anything that lights up neon. So when you dim the lights and they have those things, they just have the absolute best time. So that's pretty cool. And then, of course, the adorable dog in the middle, that's Moon Pie. Moon Pie is Leonard's Friday facility dog. She only goes in on Fridays. And Moon Pie is also my neighbor. So anytime I go out to my mailbox, there's Moon Pie staring at me from the window. She doesn't look like that when she's staring at me though. So that was her Easter outfit. All right. All right, this is clearly IB Students of the Month, and I wanted to highlight the reasons why they got their award. I just thought they were so cool as far as character, kind and caring, principled leaders, hardworking, dedicated, effective communicators. Like these are all characteristics we hope to instill in all of our children and all of our students. So I was just really impressed with the variety of reasons for students receiving these awards. At Oxford Elementary, we have some samples of adorable, utterly adorable ceramics. They do a really incredible ceramic program. They also have a very robust physical education program. I can attest to that. When we were at OES for the strategic plan, their gym is right next to the cafeteria, and those kids were running and doing all sorts of stuff. I was sweating for them just watching them through the window, so they definitely stay active. And then, so